Dad, why don't you just die so that I can have all your money? That is pretty much what the younger son says in this story. I want my half of the inheritance. Translation, I want what is coming to me after you die. Translation, you're basically dead to me now. Ouch. It's an incredibly painful thing to hear. It's an incredibly dismissive thing to say, and it's an incredibly devastating thing to receive. But for whatever reason, the father does it. He says, okay, here you go. And off the younger son goes with his money. And it's gone pretty quickly. He's living life large. He's basically engaging in all the most dissolute kind of living. Call girls, cocaine, muscle cars, really stuff you don't want your child spending your money on. And then it's gone. And he's feeding pigs. Pigs, which in the Jewish tradition is very unclean. He's down in the muck, and he's not just on a farm. He's doing the most reprehensible, disgusting job you can imagine. So he comes to himself and he says, what am I doing? My father's servants eat better than this. My father's servants live better than this. Why am I starving and wishing I could eat what I'm feeding to the pigs? Which is interesting. Because it's not the same as saying, oh, I really made a mistake. Or, oh, I should never have done that. Or, oh my gosh, I've wrecked it. I've hurt my father. I've got no living left. I've really blown it. No, he says, my father's servants eat better than this. So I don't know. I don't know if he's actually repenting. I don't know whether he's learned a lesson. But he goes home, and what we do know is that the father runs to meet him. And the son has prepared a speech, right? He said to himself, all right, I'm going to say, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and I am not worthy to be called your son. Make me one of your servants. Does he mean this? We don't know. What we do know is that the father isn't interested in his speech. The father doesn't wait for an apology. The father runs to meet him, which is a complete inversion of the social hierarchy. The father, in this patriarchal, honor-bound society, the father is really at the top. He's got all the responsibility, he's got all the authority, and it is the job of those around him to pay him honor. But what's the father doing here? He is chucking that out the window, and he is running to meet the son who has so dishonored him. And the son attempts to get his speech out, but the father is already hugging him and kissing him. And so the son says, I have something to say. Father, I have sinned against you. Says the father, let's have a party. You're back. He's not interested in the son's protestations of guilt. He's not interested in the apology. He only cares that the son has come home. We make mistakes in this life. It's not an if, it's a when. We hurt people in this life, often people about whom we care deeply, people who love us, people who would die for us. And it's very, very easy to think that our mistakes have been our final chance, that there is no going back, there's no forgiveness to be had, there's no healing, we've blown it, end of story. Sometimes human forgiveness does not come. And this can be experienced either by, we can be on the receiving end of that, or we can be on the giving end. There are times when it is really hard to forgive. There are things we have done that others find they cannot forgive. Or sometimes they can forgive, as in they can put down the bitterness, but they can't let us back in their lives the same way. That is real, and that hurts. But we should never make the mistake of thinking that our mistake, our hurt we've caused others, our sin, if you will, we should never think that it's so awful, it's so great, and so final that we have blown it with God. Or indeed, my friends, that there will never be healing in our lives. Because truly, all of us have Easter stories of new life and forgiveness where we never thought it was possible. So we should never, ever have the inverted pride to think that our screw up is the biggest one of all and there is absolutely no hope for us. Because, my friends, God is not us. God has no interest in our shame except to heal it. God has no interest in our guilt except to lift it. God has great interest in our relationship with God, in our healing, and in our wholeness. We never have to earn that. We never have to get down on our knees for long enough and say the right prayers and do the right things in order for God to come back and welcome us in. As soon as we turn around and even think of reaching out to God, God is running to us on God's way. For us. For you and I, my friends. For you and I. And what about the older son? Because we sometimes call this story the parable of the prodigal son. But there is a man with two sons in this story. And the younger one may be making the obvious mistake, right? He has broken the codes of honor and family. He has said, Dad, I want my money now. He has spent it unwisely. He has debased his family in the eyes of the world. And the older son seems to be doing it right. He has stayed at home. He is honoring his father. He is working in the fields. He is the good one. I have attempted to play this role in my family. I'm the oldest, so, the oldest is automatically responsible for everything. I did well in school. Then I went and became a Christian. So really, I was just sort of ticking all the good girl boxes. But my sisters have made it very, very clear to me that they love me much better when I am imperfect. That I am much more interesting and much more human and much more worth having a relationship with when I am not trying to be the good one. Because as a role, it's not actually that satisfying, right? It boxes us in and loses us. We can become lost in this role just as much as we can become lost in the role of being the family screw-up, because that is a story that happens in families too. And so this brother has done it right, and then who's getting the party? The schmuck. The younger son who did it wrong. And he's hurt. Father, I have stayed here. I have honored you. Where's my party? And why are you throwing a party for that guy on my dime? Because the father is spending the money that's going to be the older son's inheritance. Ouch! There is just all kinds of pain in this story. So the older brother, pretty understandably, is upset. I have done it right. So where's my reward? That's real. That's real. I have ticked the boxes. I have towed the line. I have done what I'm supposed to do. Where's my celebration? And this story comes on the heels of two other stories that Jesus tells. The story of leaving the 99 sheep to go find the 100th, and the story of the woman who sweeps her house to find her lost coin. But what about when we're not lost? It's easy to feel that love is finite. It's easy to fall into the story that there is only so much to go around, that we have to work to keep it, that our reward for playing by the rules is keeping the love that is poured out abundantly. It's hard to believe that there is enough for us when someone whom we don't think deserves it is getting love. And certainly human love can be finite. We only have room for so many relationships in our lives. But I think it's less about love and more about how we are measuring, how we know when we are loved. So last year, I had a friend at school who received a scholarship. And she not only got a scholarship, but she got a picture with the people who gave her the scholarship, and it was in the school newsletter. And I remember as soon as I saw that picture, it was like somebody had plucked a nerve in my body. It was like a physical reaction. I want to know that I'm important too. I want to. And even though I'd received plenty of scholarships, the fact that somebody else was getting recognition was anxiety-inducing. Because my standard of knowing I was loved was getting attention. There's no fast fix for that. And we can dive into why and maybe what's happened in our lives, what our family dynamics were, and we can ask, why is this my measure of love? And why do I believe that if somebody else is being loved, I am not? It is useful to touch on those, but that's not the way to fix it. And the good and the bad news, friends, is that we don't fix that. We notice it, we name it, because you can't fix something that you're pretending isn't there, and then we sit with it. And that's it. That's our job, to sit with it, to sit with the pain and let God in. And healing does not happen in a straight line. It doesn't happen on our timeline. It's not an efficient process. It takes the time and the process it takes. And so maybe for this party, we will sit outside in the cold and the dark, waiting for someone to come outside and agree with us about why this should be our party and not our brother's. And maybe we'll get up in the morning and we'll go back out into the fields and do what a dutiful child should, and we'll be angry and we'll be bitter and we'll hold on to this story of why the other one should not be the favorite. But we will always have another chance. Because if the prodigal son is going to have another chance, then so is the elder brother. There will be another party. There will be another sheep who is lost who comes back. There will be umpteen chances to let God into our pain. So, my friends, whichever role we find ourselves in now, and whichever role we have played, know that it is not only the son in this story who is prodigal, but it is the father. The son is a prodigal spender of money, and the father is a prodigal spender of love. We may think it's limited. We may feel that there is not enough for us. But my friends, it is for us that love is poured out unstoppably, irresponsibly, irrespective of what we have done. Love is poured out upon us. There are arms waiting to embrace us. And truly, always, always, what God has is ours, for God is always with us. Thanks be to God.